You've got to go to the East End of London.
Small galleries in the East End.
A lot of small East End galleries.
You have an incredibly large developing community in the East End.
Ever since the late 60s, the East End has been the place where artists in London have had studios. In those days, the whole of the East End, which had been light manufacturing, all of those businesses collapsed. And the whole of the area was blighted with large buildings which were completely empty, and nobody wanted them. They had virtually no value. So they were populated by hundreds and then thousands of artists, had very cheap studios. Unfortunately, in the 80s, the property developers discovered something called loft living, and suddenly the least valuable property in London became the most valuable property in London.
The area has become more expensive, but it is still cheaper than most of the other parts of London. This is where art happens, and this is where young galleries spring up.
As a young gallerist, you're going to set up in the East End because the curators and the clients come here looking for a certain sort of work. You could set up in the West End, but you'd find it's better here because you get a different kind of attention, I think.
But dealing in contemporary art is not an easy matter, even if the number of collectors and potential customers is rising, and even in a city with as great an interest in art as London.
It was very, very difficult at the beginning, extremely difficult. Even though everybody told me, oh, it's going to be really hard, it was still a lot harder than I anticipated, really. But it's been a couple of years now, and I think we're going better than we kind of hoped for, really.
Daily life in the East End is often exhausting. The area is complicated to explore with public transport. But it's worth the effort. You can experience the new, the controversial, the art of the future here at any time of the year. The galleries reveal the most multifaceted picture of contemporary art in London. White Cube in Hoxton Square, the pioneer among East End galleries, is still an important attraction for visitors. Hundreds of other galleries have settled around here in the last few years, concentrated in an area of a few square kilometres.
From my point of view, that's a really positive aspect because somebody has to do a little bit of research and put some forethought into it and come to you on purpose and say, okay, today I'm going to visit this gallery and that gallery, and rather than just kind of browsing through galleries.
There are only a few places with a real concentration of galleries. In Viner Street, for example, where art is on display in former textile workshops and plumbers' premises, while the atmosphere on the street has hardly changed. Galleries here don't need to advertise themselves with large shop signs. The Londoners find them easily enough, and ever more tourists as well, on the lookout for interesting works of art like those produced by Susan Collis.